Hey everybody. Shawty, I do. What's up? I haven't seen you around in a minute. Hey Meg. Estrella. How you say that? Yes, seaweed. Delicious snack. These apps, bruh. Let's talk about the new moon on day 2 as we strike for ceasefire in Palestine. And yeah, I'm an astrologer. I am an artist. I am a writer. I'm a thinker. I'm an orator. I'm a dot connector. But I think that last piece is the biggest part of my work and calling, is connect the dots. To use all the tools and mediums and methods and such at my disposal to free you from the alienation that makes you feel like your suffering is the work of your own hands, the failure of your own mind, and to make plain to you that your suffering is what connects you to the masses of people in rightly discerning the source of that suffering. You realize that your suffering is not the work of your own hands. Your suffering is not the fruit of lack of action, capability, will on your part. Hey Ryan. Thank you, Marisa. That your suffering is by design. Your suffering is by design. It's intentional. And so every time I come on here, hey Abby, every time I come on here to talk, my goal is to connect dots between your struggle, my struggle, our struggles, the Palestinian struggles, and so on, so that we can remember and keep at the front of our mind that survival is meant to be a shared burden. A society's civilization can be measured by how invested they are in alleviating the suffering of its members. And yeah, so today, hey Vincento. So today, as we talk about this new moon, which is in Sidereal Scorpio, you know, I have very mixed feelings around the concept and idea of malefic, because in my opinion, any astrologer worth that title understands that every single planet and every single sign has drama and problems. Even the Venus, right? But there's something to be said for appearance, which is a really big theme of 2024. Thank you, Myra. Myra said, I'm so grateful for your live dispatches and sermons. They always come at exactly the right moment. Well, thank you. I'm glad. I love an on-time word. But I want to say that there's something to be said for how we like for things to look, and how the way that things look are, is a distraction. But it also changes the way we interpret how we feel about encountering it, right? And I bring this up because Scorpio is a really interesting sign. So I'm putting together something for all the folks coming to my 2024 talk, which is on December 30th. I think I'm going to also provide it to everyone who is subscribed to my Podia community, the Div for Live community, all tiers. I'm thinking about what each sign's contribution is to the struggle. How can we transmute our individual, personal experiences under, the oppression of capitalism, whiteness, and patriarchy into the tools and gifts we ought to be using to unchain and unfree ourselves. Yes, Jamie, the December birthday club is open for signups. Checking to see if it's showing up on my I think you have to click group and monthly offerings. Yep. Click group and monthly offerings. Anyways, I think about how much appearances are such a distraction and that the thing with Scorpio, where this evening's new moon is that Scorpio is too different to hide. Whether that is by physical appearance or emotionally, the emotional impact that people who have Scorpio make on others is also the thing that's too different to hide. Because what is often being demanded of Sidereal Scorpio is that you refuse to honor your body, your pain, your suffering. When you have Sidereal Scorpio, when we are experiencing times like now, where there's important activity in Sidereal Scorpio, we are reminded of our past experiences where we have been forced to choose between belonging and survival, which is an impossible choice. It's impossible. We see laid bare what Sidereal Scorpio really means. If we give ourselves the opportunity to bear witness to what is happening to our siblings, our family in Palestine. Which is that when this is the crux of Scorpio. Scorpio talks about how we are harmed physically, socially, and emotionally. Right? Those three ways that we are harmed when we do not conform physically, socially, and emotionally. If you have the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide, I don't expect you to have read through the whole thing, but something I talk about a lot, and I will continue to be talking about a lot, is this idea of an emotional consensus. I really want you to understand this as we go into 2024. I really want you to begin to notice and identify how this shows up in your life, in your world. This idea of the emotional consensus, which at its core is about a collective consensus that determines who and what is a threat and who and what is safe. Who and what is the source of danger, and who and what is a place of safety. This is what an emotional consensus is. So if you think about someone who has Sidereal Scorpio moon, for example, like where the moon is right now at this new moon, whoever's born right now, this is a very difficult thing because the person and people, and this is, I'll just say this, the person and people who are supposed to be your safe place are also the source of danger. So you're put into this very impossible situation that the place where you are to seek refuge and comfort and ease of your distress and safety is the source of the distress, is the source of the danger, right? So we're looking at Palestine and the way that their drive to preserve their own lives, the actions they have taken in order to protect themselves and their home has been weaponized against them. I want you to think about the ways in your life and the experiences in your life that your attempts to protect yourself physically, to protect yourself emotionally, have wrought violence from others. I'll never forget, and I cannot remember his name because my memory is shot today. Don't ask me no questions. The person who was unalived on the train this summer. He was hungry. He was trying to survive. He's trying to get his needs met. And that very cry for help, the rage in his voice, which was a logical human response to the way he was invisibilized, abandoned, neglected, and ignored. Jordan Neely, thank you, Selah. Right? His rage, his outburst was a logical response, a logical human reaction to being abandoned and neglected and all that he suffered. And it was that very thing that elicited violence from the people around him. Jordan Neely, we say your name, we have not forgotten you. You are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. So I want you to connect the dots here. So many people are afraid to tell the truth about Palestine, to tell the truth about Israel, to use their voices to speak up and call out the injustice that is being perpetrated and that has been perpetrated towards Palestine. Because it is human to see the suffering and to empathize with it and to feel afraid, because the person who has authority in the house we Americans live in is an abusive, genocidal narcissist to the people in Palestine. This is often how abuse dynamics work, right? We find out somebody we know we're so close to in proximity is a violent abuser. And we say, well, he's never been that way towards me. This is a survival mechanism. That is a way that our psyche is trying to preserve our lives. Because the alternative is that you have been living in danger and you didn't know it. So your psyche wants to protect you, like you are not stupid, you're smart, you haven't been humiliated, you haven't been duped. This is just an anomaly. It's just with that person. What did they do to deserve to be the objects of violence? You won't be the object of this person's violence because you're not like that. You're really different. They're good to you. This is how abusive dynamics work. Here we are, Americans, living in the house with the man who is perpetrating genocide against another group of people. He's murdering, starving, dehumanizing, and humiliating these people. And for many of us, the only way that we can protect ourselves and to feel a sense of control over our safety is to play these psychological mind games that says, I am not Palestinian, thus I will never be the object of the abuse of this administration, of this country. We don't need to look to Palestine. We look here. All of the people who have come forth, once again, under Scorpio, telling the truth of the violence they have experienced at the hands of powerful men. And we're constantly trying to differentiate ourselves, say who we are not, so that we can feel safe and maintain proximity and access to the power that the abuser has. 2023 Sidereal Astrology Guide. December. Today, new moon in Scorpio, planting seeds for autonomous embodiment. I'm working on using simpler words, but I like precision over simplicity. I need you to know that I mean exactly what I said. Autonomous embodiment. That means that there is nothing, no one, not even our own minds, that can disrupt the embodiment and expression of our authentic feelings. When you say, I am not Palestine, I am not Palestinian, that is your mind disrupting your body, sending the signals of fear, right? So the embodiment is not autonomous, excuse me, because, hey Cynthia, because the survival imperative is to disarm the abuser whose house you're living in, which is the American Empire. In the words of the ancestor bell hooks, the imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist patriarchy. One of my oft repeated phrases is revolution begins in the body. And it is in these moments that what I mean is abundantly clear. Revolution is fundamentally change. It is the change from the status quo to the new. Revolution is not reform. Reform is to take the same bricks you took apart from the building. You took a building apart. And reform is to take those same bricks and build a new building. Yes, it is a crow. Reform is to change the shape, to mold, to make it look different. The substance has not changed. You're using the same materials. White supremacism, patriarchy, capitalism, misogyny, imperialism. Revolution, new materials, new shape, new substance. Revolution means the substance and the form has changed. Reform means the substance has remained and the appearance and shape has changed. So remember in the beginning, I talk about how powerful appearances are. Appearances can make you think that the substance of something has changed when it's literally just been reformed. So when I say revolution begins in the body, I'm saying change that is substantive. Change that not only means a new appearance, but also a new substance. That begins in the body. So when we have these moments of Scorpio, like at this new moon, we're talking about the power we find in rejecting the emotional consensus. Remember, the emotional consensus is who in a relationship, family, community, nation, society, right? It is about what is determined to be a threat and what is determined to be safe. And to reject the emotional consensus means refusing to conform your feelings, your body, to accept what they say is dangerous, to accept who they say is a threat. Rejecting the emotional consensus means the origin of how you know what you feel is internal instead of external. It's embodied, not socially determined. Planting seeds for autonomous embodiment. This new moon is so damn important. This new moon is so damn important. And this is the moment you need to mark and you need to remember. There's a feeling memory available to us that we can form in this moment, that we can come back to. We always plant seeds at a new moon. So the seeds that we're planting are for autonomous embodiment. Autonomous embodiment, hear me. Autonomous embodiment means I don't need to check with other people first before I determine whether or not I'm in danger. I'm shutting out any external influence that would otherwise have me disregard my own body, disregard my fear, disregard my rage, disregard what my body is communicating to me. Autonomous embodiment means that the interference is blocked. The interference comes from propaganda. The interference comes because our nervous systems have been co-opted and colonized by capitalism. See, when you are dependent on someone, your nervous system is triggered when that person is in danger. Right? Right? A child seeing their mother in danger, it is spontaneous. It is hardwired for the child to come to the mother's aid. Unless, of course, at some point, right, that child has been conditioned to understand that protecting mother puts them in harm's way, right? So because we are dependent on capitalists, because we are dependent upon capitalism to have our very basic needs met, our nervous systems function to preserve capitalists and capitalism. So every year, when we come around to Scorpio transits, it's uncomfortable. But you need to lean into the discomfort of this moment. It's an opportunity for you to decolonize your survival instinct. Decolonizing your survival instinct I have this post on Instagram. Where did I say this? I can't remember right now. I have to come find it another time. Oh, I didn't share that post. Y'all, I got a whole post. I have to share it another time. Black Moon Rose says, something about the Scorpio and Aquarius square is telling us that we can choose other options outside of staying with the abusive model of capitalism and whiteness. Yes, and this is really what's informing everything that I'm saying here. See, understand that, again, if we understand capitalism as an abusive dynamic, we know that in order to avoid the violence of an abuser, we become the caretakers of their emotions and the protector of their self-image. I'm gonna say that one more time because I really don't think you heard me. In abusive dynamics, the one who is abused, in order to survive, becomes the caretaker of the abuser's emotions and the protector of the abuser's self-image. Did y'all catch that? Hey, Michael. I didn't even see you come in. So I need you real quickly. How have you in your life been a caretaker of, or the protector of the self-image of capitalists? That includes Beyonce. Where in your life have you been the protector of the self-image of capitalists? I know most of you all watching here have, moved on to a different relationship with capitalism, but share this with your friends because they need to see it. They need to hear it. In hierarchies of dominance, like what capitalism is a hierarchy of dominance. Whiteness and white supremacism is a hierarchy of dominance. Patriarchy is a hierarchy of dominance. In hierarchies of dominance, meaning there are levels of domination. There is the most dominated at the bottom and the least dominated at the top. We're constantly seeking to join the ranks of the least dominated, not understanding that the least dominated are the most dominators. Thank you, Angelica Yanu. So that in order to become the least dominated, you must develop the capacity to increasingly disregard your own humanity that would otherwise be unable to stomach dominating other people. The emotional consensus tells us who is a threat and who is safe to us. The emotional consensus says you are in competition with your neighbor who is being dominated in the same way as you in order to reach those levels of less dominated. So when I say this new moon is so important, we're on this like revolving thing here between Taurus and Scorpio. We're just like, whew, 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 just orbiting around, coming back to these points. Where we see the benefits available to us, should we conform to the emotional consensus? Should we live our duty to be the protector of the self-image of capitalism and capitalist? Should we take up the call to be the caretaker of the feelings of capitalists? You see it all the time. Any criticism towards a millionaire, a billionaire, especially if they are an entertainer, those criticisms are met with hordes of people who feel compelled to protect the self-image of those hoarders and to don't give them a hard time. Why are you so hard on the billionaire black woman? Why do you so easily abandon yourself emotionally, disregarding your best interest in order to take care of the feelings of someone who that does not know you exist? In case you're just joining us, we're talking about the new moon in Sidereal Scorpio in the 2023 Sidereal Astrology Guide. We are planting seeds for autonomous embodiment. It is this moment where we have the opportunity to, one, recognize the ways that we are being seduced and manipulated out of our feelings and into the emotional consensus that seeks to tell us who our enemy is. The emotional consensus of white supremacy relies upon you not recognizing that you are a separate entity with your own identity, your own sense of self. It requires you to see yourself as the same as capitalists. Just like Bianca says here, quote, they have the same 24 hours. There's that same, right? The emotional consensus of white supremacy relies on you not knowing who you are, so that you cannot rightly discern what the actual threat to your life, and body, and well-being is. So that you do not see capitalists who hoard the wealth produced by your labor, not their own, as the actual threat that they are. Autonomous embodiment is necessary for survival. We cannot survive in a society that makes no room for our differences. We can't. Yet there's something about social media that has flattened the niche cultures which created safe spaces for us to embody our differences. Now, even embodying our differences is a performance. It's a seduction. All right? So let's rewind real quick, because I want to get this thought out, and then I'm going to pull some cards. These are the things I need to wrap up. Why is this new moon so important in this whole back and forth between Taurus and Scorpio that we're on? 2, decolonizing survival instincts and the the courage to feel different. So let's talk about why this new moon is so important. We got this moment here of Sidereal Scorpio. And whenever there are transits through water signs, so Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. Hey, Exodia. Transits through water signs give us a necessary a necessary imposition of our bodies, right? We feel our bodies imposing themselves, our bodies and our bodily functions, our feelings, our sensations, they become loud, and what they're imposing on are the ideas that we have internalized, that we've been taught, that we believe and think about ourselves and the world. And in that moment, you're left to say, you know, will I identify with my body? Right? Scorpio says, will I identify with my body? What is the cost of identifying with my body? What is the cost of not identifying with my body? What is to gain by not identifying with my own feelings? What is to gain by identifying with the emotional consensus to conform my judgment of who and what is safe and dangerous, not to my body and bodily functions, but to the emotional consensus that has a vested interest in maintaining its power. And when I say identity is a belief system that's being weaponized against you, I'm saying that identities are the weapon that capitalism and whiteness and patriarchy uses to manipulate you into disregarding your body's capacity to tell you when you're in danger. Because they want to sell you things based on who they say is the threat to you. But your body has a wisdom of its own that tells you, hey girl, you in danger, you not all right. But how easily we just talk ourselves out of it. As a blank person, you know, I just feel like that is honestly like, vent real quick, that is like my least favorite phrase of the internet. When somebody starts off, and I know I've been guilty of doing this in the past, but I'm so annoyed by it, I don't want to do it anymore. Somebody starts off a post that says, as a blank, and they insert, you know, some profession, some, you know, qualification in the form of like a degree or title, you know, some racial or gender or sexual identity. They say as a blank, right? Because the blank, the identity, is the thing that gives you the legitimacy to speak. Your identity is the thing that makes your words true. Your identity is the thing that makes you qualified. That should give you credence and legitimacy in the eyes of others. Right? But identity being weaponized against you is saying, based on ABC identity, you should be afraid of blank. If you are an ally of Jews, you should be afraid of blank. If you are Jewish, you should be afraid of blank. If you are American, you should be afraid of blank. That's an emotional consensus. Now, if you've read December, the monthly summary for December in the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide, I got some real strong words about that. But I will be releasing, I will be publishing that on my website in audio format and all of that stuff. Right? Now, there are times when the emotional consensus collectively is a reflection of reality in terms of what is really dangerous. Again, in the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide in December. I can't help myself. I talk about how in 2020, we arrived at an almost global emotional consensus that said that SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, was dangerous. And in that emotional consensus, you see what that did. My word for 2024 is don't let them make you forget. More on that later. So, in 2024, lots of fixed sign transits, lots of Taurus. And Taurus is that seductive sign. Taurus is the sign focused on appearances. Taurus is the sign that is about managing the emotions of other people, right? Anytime we're talking about Venus, which is going to be Taurus or Libra, we're talking about how do I get you to respond to me the way that I want you to respond? How do I get you to treat me well and not be violent towards me? How do I get you to feed me and not starve me? How do I get you to house me and not leave me unhoused and homeless? How do I get you to protect me and not hurt me? That's what Venus says. Venus says, how do I get you to like me and not hate me, to accept me and not reject me, to receive me and want me, and not harm me and alienate me and banish me? And so we focus on centering the emotions of those who have the power of life and death over us. And in centering their emotions, we cannot be with our own bodies because we must use our powers to seduce the source of our harm into not harming us. If I make you afraid of being homeless, how can you know that COVID is really a threat? Because you cannot be in your body and feel the danger of a vascular disease that harms the immune system similarly to HIV. You cannot be with that fear because you must use your energy. You must use your psychic and physical and emotional energy to disarm me so that you won't be homeless. Do you see how this works? You cannot rightly discern the source of your suffering when you are in these fabricated situations where your housing and your safety and your food is held hostage. When your basic needs are held hostage by the very people who are meant to protect you, you can't be in your body. So we must take these moments of Scorpio, no matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how alienating it makes us feel, no matter how much we fear rejection and being the only one who feels what we feel, to be the only one who wears a mask, to be the only one who speaks truth to power about Palestine, to be the only one who feels the depression and the angst and the rage and the fear. That's a natural consequence of all that's going on. When we have Scorpio, we must overcome the fear of being the only one willing to tell the truth about the source of our suffering. We must lean into the awkwardness that comes when we just can't mirror back to other people what they feel, which is, or you know, it's refusing to participate in the performance. It's putting down the script. It's no longer participating. Don't read your lines. Don't stand where they tell you to stand. Don't feel what they tell you to feel. What do you really feel? What are you really afraid of? What are you really enraged about? What are you really sad about? This is what it means to reject the emotional consensus. This is what it means to plant seeds for autonomous embodiment. This is what it means to remember this moment so that when we get 6 months from now, and it's all those planets in Taurus, and the pressure to conform is so heavy that you can't even feel your own body. Because to feel your own body is to wonder if they can notice what you're feeling, even though you haven't told them. That's the real fear. Well, they know that I'm afraid of catching COVID if I wear a mask. I don't want to be the only one afraid. It's scary to be afraid alone. It's scary to be afraid alone. So it's easier to perform ease and happiness and being okay if everybody else is doing it. Let's pull some cards. This is such an important moment for us collectively as we embark on 2024 and really contending with the fundamental nature of humans. People talk about the nature of humans is to dominate. No, the nature of humans is to belong. The nature of humans is not to dominate each other. The nature of humans is to belong. And this is the word we need to keep at the forefront of our minds going into 2024, that the nature of humans is to belong. And when we look left and right at our neighbors who share in our suffering, belonging can look like we have a common threat of danger that we must rally against. I mean, and this is so much of this moment, right? The connections we make with the Palestinians, because we recognize that we share a common threat. The danger and the source of danger is the same. The source of our suffering is the same. We may be different. We may practice different religions. We may speak different languages. We may have different customs. We may have different values, but we share in a common threat. And so sharing in a common threat is not meant to erase the distinctions and differences between us. It is to preserve ourselves long enough that we can maintain and continue those differences and distinctions, right? So what is the deep wisdom of this moment that we, and I want to emphasize on, I want to emphasize the personal nature of this new moon. Yes, Palestine, absolutely. Free Palestine and all oppressed and colonized people, including you and me. But I want to give you some tools, some wisdom, some guidance to to use and hold on to in your day-to-day, in your intimate relationships, your daily interactions, your daily expressions, your daily embodiment. Because oftentimes thinking so big and seeing the bigness of things can immobilize us and make us feel powerless and lead us to doing nothing, to apathy and nihilism, because it seems so big. And if I don't have a gesture, if I don't have a response, if I don't have the power to do something equally as big as the problem that I see in front of me, I might as well do nothing. That is bullshit. Don't believe it. The Lovers. Such a poignant card. The Lovers speaks to being at a sort of crossroads. The Lovers speaks to the point of change, the being right at that point of change where you have become aware of something that you cannot unsee. The Lover speaks to how becoming conscious, the process of becoming conscious of ourselves, the fruit of that is change. It demands change. Meaning once you know what you know, once you see what you have seen, once you connect the dots, you can't unsee it. You can't unconnect the dots. You can't unknow. You cannot become unconscious of something that you've become conscious of. You can repress it or you can suppress it. You can ignore it. You can deny it, but you cannot become unconscious of that which you have become conscious of. You cannot unknow of yourself something you have come to know of yourself. And so the Lover speaks to us about what it means to no longer operate in a previous state of consciousness. The Lover speaks to us about what it looks like. It speaks at moments when we can no longer live in the state of ignorance we have left. The Lover speaks to the actionableness of knowledge, that you cannot unknow what you know. And there is a deep awkwardness and discomfort and self-consciousness and maybe even shame that arises when you try to continue down the path paved with an old level of consciousness or a state of ignorance. What do you now know that you cannot unknow of yourself? And this is real important because often ourselves and the authenticity of who we are and how we feel is hidden from us because we could not be in awareness of it and survive the environments we had to survive. Those environments, to survive them, we had to be ignorant of who we are. We disregarded the truth of who we are because no one else would dare lay eyes on it so that we could become conscious of it. We cannot unfeel what we have felt. Even though in the past, our survival, what it required of us was to not feel because there was no one who felt us. We could not feel it. So what is it in this moment that you feel that you cannot unfeel, that you know that you cannot unknow? What are you conscious of that you cannot become unconscious of? And what are the changes that are required in how you move forward? I hear so many people talking about the ways that Palestine and their struggle and their autonomous embodiment of their drive for liberation and survival, the way it has changed them. I've heard so many people saying that they cannot go back. They cannot go back to being who they were, seeing the world the way they saw it, living the way that they lived it. And I need to know, how does this trickle down into your personal life and your personal relationships? How does you witnessing the struggle of Palestinians, connecting it to your own suffering, trickle down into the realities of your day-to-day? How is Palestine liberating you? What is the emotional consensus that you mistook for your own truth, for your own feelings? Who were you told is a threat and a danger to you? Then now that you feel the truth of your own body, you can't accept that anymore. We've got the Four of Pentacles, and we've got the Three of Pentacles. So these cards are getting right down to the nitty gritty, to the earth. Earth is all about our material circumstances. This has been so deeply on my mind, and this Four of Pentacles is bringing it back to my mind. And I thought about this today while I was out getting groceries. These dots connected for me. In the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide, my word for 2024, which you can find in the December, where's my 2024 guide? Right here. Which you can find in December. The December monthly summary in the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide is my word for the year. And the theme for 2024 in Divination for Liberation is don't let them make you forget. I talk a lot about all of the things that they said that they didn't have enough money to do. There was no public will to do. And somehow in 2020, they did it. They gave us money. They gave us housing. They gave us health care, right? They gave us, they delayed our student loans. They let us stay home when we were sick. All of the things they said that they did not have the will or money to do, they did. And I'd say, don't let them make you forget. But it dawned on me today, and the Four of Pentacles is reminding me of this, that there was a moment where we stopped spending money because we were at home. It was unsafe. And they did everything in their power to get us back spending money, including giving us money. They wrote us checks. They wanted us to spend money so bad because we had stopped spending money. And this Four of Pentacles is bringing up a thought that I had today, which is that we could stop spending money. We don't have to. They were desperate. And when they decided that they weren't going to write us any more checks, they switched tactics. And the new tactic was, COVID is just a cold, it's just the flu. The new tactic was, oh, COVID's not that dangerous. You don't need 10 days of quarantine. You just need 5. You could go back to work. Oh, COVID's just a cold. Just come on into work. You don't need a mask. You don't need any of that. Just come on back to work. Take that flight. Go out to the restaurant. Shop, shop, shop. They wanted us to spend money so bad, they went from giving us money to lying to us about the danger that we're in. The emotional consensus changed. The emotional consensus was, oh my God, COVID is dangerous. You need to mask, you need to avoid crowds, and we need to lower the curve. Flatten the curve, remember? They said flatten the curve because the threat was SARS coronavirus 2. But then they said that the real threat is you not spending money. The real threat is you're not spending enough money. The threat is that you are not spending enough money. Your life is not worthy of protecting. So the emotional consensus must change to redefine threats in terms of what will protect the interest of capital. You have been seduced and you have been manipulated. You have been bamboozled. You have been lied to. Your nervous system has been co-opted. Your capacity to save your own life, you have been disarmed of the very things that you need to preserve your own life. Stop spending money. Stop spending money. Do you remember what they did the last time you stopped spending money? Do not let them make you forget. Now we've got, I gotta do my nails, y'all. Out of control. 3 of Pentacles. What a lovely pairing here. The 3 of Pentacles, you know, these cards are real interesting because I've been thinking about all of these things that I need to say about 2024. I've been thinking about all of these strategies. I've been thinking about, you know, my personal contribution to this moment and how I can empower people. And these cards are I do my own nails. I don't go get them done. So I don't need to spend any money. But yeah, the 3 of Pentacles is reminding me of this other piece. And if Kat is still here, we were just talking about this. So I was looking at patterns because I wanted to know what is the astrological signature for movements around making things, craftsmanship, reusing things. And it's always these earth transits. And so look at this. Such a poignant imagery here. I tweeted this out the other day, and I talked about how there are already no-buy groups. And this really needs to be a part of the infrastructure that we use moving forward to stop spending money. Bisan, I think that's how you say her name, has called to continue the general strike for a ceasefire. And most of us can't stop working. We're not at the place where we have the social infrastructure in place for us to all withhold our labor. But we can all stop spending money. If you don't feel safe using your voice, using your social media platforms, speaking out publicly, I get it. And I'm not going to shame you for that because they out here trying to lock people up for it. And you can't do nothing if you locked up. There's not enough of a movement around enough movement infrastructure around you know, keeping people out of prisons, and making sure that people have the legal aid that they need. We don't have that infrastructure. But the one thing that you can do is stop spending money. Just stop. Like, you don't need it. But what's going to happen when you stop spending money is you're going to have to feel some feelings that you don't want to feel. Because many of us spend money as a way to numb ourselves, as a way to avoid feeling loneliness, avoid feeling triggered, to avoid the memory of trauma, to disarm and quiet our bodies from speaking the truth to us. Our long-term strategy, which is something everyone can do, it does not matter what your income level is. It does not matter what your material circumstances are. Everyone can stop spending money. And if you don't know what that looks like, go back to 2020. Go back to April and May of 2020. All of the money that you saved, all the money that you did not spend, what were you doing? We may not ever get a lockdown again, but the lifestyles and the routines and the way we moved at that time, there's nothing stopping us from doing that. There's nothing stopping us from staying home. There's nothing stopping us from not spending money. There's literally nothing stopping us. What is stopping you? I know what's stopping you. Remember, I said earlier that it is not human nature to dominate each other. It is human nature to belong. It is human nature. Talk about this in the guide, in the 2024 guide, that our need to belong often manifests as mirroring and mimicking the people around us. That is the path to belonging. We mirror and we mimic the people around us because we want to be the same. We want to feel the same. Sameness is a feeling. I'm like these people, and we need that. But change only comes because someone sets the standard for what the new same is going to be. In your life, do you have the will, the emotional fortitude to set the standard for what the new same will be? What are the behaviors that will comprise the new norms? What are the behaviors that we will seek to mimic and mirror as an establishment of a new norm? And who amongst us has the courage to be different, to be the one monkey? Who among us has the courage to be different, to center themselves emotionally, tacitly saying, you all are going to conform to me. You all are going to seek to be the same as me. Man, I'm all up in the 2024 guide right now. I mean, but I can't not talk about it. It's December. It's not like 2024 is some magic moment that like flips the switch. It's like, no, we here. We're here. Questions? Any questions? I'm with you, Lofi Bubbles. I'm the one who has the emotional fortitude to be different and to hold it down until everybody's conforming to me. May not happen in my lifetime. I'm okay with that though. I'm okay with that though. But I have the emotional fortitude, and shit is hard. Shout out to my spiritual director / therapist. LV Life with Love asks, feeling it and the ruptured, deep and shaken foundations of relationships and systems. What are good ways to let go? With tears, with rage, with sadness, with grief, with despondence. That's a good way to let go. There is no bypassing the feelings. And it's hard because the feelings in and of themselves about the ruptures and the shaken foundations, the feelings you feel about that become another source of alienation. Because who is willing to feel with you? The people who are still in the delusion of the before times? The people who still have not caught up to the fact that it's about to be 2024 and it's not 2019? Those people are repressed. Those people are in denial. And what you need the most is for someone to feel with you the pain and the grief. But this moment is asking you to center yourself emotionally and to become the emotional agent of influence. Because you got a choice. Feel your feelings or feel everybody else's. You feel the pain, the grief, the rage you feel, or you join them in their denial. You join them in their repression. And sometimes you'll oscillate. Sometimes you'll be completely dissociated because it's a psychic weight to bear. Right? But feeling is the way through. Queen Exodia says, I wonder about how making mistakes looks like when you lead the charge of difference. Emotional fortitude is balanced with what? I think I get the gist of what you're saying. I gotta turn my heater on, y'all. And sorry, it's gonna be loud, but it's cold in these old rickety houses. I'll try to put it further away. I'm having a hard time with this because I think I understand your question. I mean, I think it's a matter of being different for the sake of being different. I just kind of feel like, you know, there's this whole thing in an individualist society where everyone has to individually calculate their risk tolerance, right? And it's individualizing something that needs to be collective. It's individualizing the what should be an emotional consensus, right? So I'm having a hard time conceptualizing what the extreme to that is. Maybe you can help me out. I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, I think that in part, even asking this question is inviting a gaze into this process, right? Because when you say a mistake, that means that there is someone making an object of your actions who has the power to judge your actions, right? So who is that? Whose gaze would be in the seat of power to determine whether or not you're making a mistake or not? Jamie in Motion says, it can feel scary to practice autonomous embodiment for those that haven't felt safe to do so previously. Any tips for navigating that and helping others navigate that? I'll be 40. Come on, Star Craving Millennial. Perfection is a tool for oppression. No mistakes, only our curiosity and learning. Thank you. That. I'm gonna be 40 in about maybe 8 weeks or so. And I've been thinking about things I've learned in my 30s. And one of the things I've learned, and probably the most important thing, I don't even think anything else matters at this point, is that the thing that humans are most afraid of, emotions. When it comes to the thing that humans fear most, it is their own feelings, their own emotions. And it is because our emotions have the power to connect us with each other and make us feel like we belong. And our feelings, our emotions have the power to alienate us, make us subject to rejection and violence. And so when I hear you say it's scary to practice autonomous embodiment, what I'm hearing is a fundamental fear of feeling your feelings because of the consequence of feelings, and also the loneliness of autonomous embodiment. Autonomous embodiment, there's no certainty that you will be felt, that anyone will join you in your feelings, that anyone will understand you. Autonomous embodiment is to take the risk of being the only one feeling what you're feeling. It is to take the risk of alienation. Hello, annoying artist, right? So, feeling safe, let me be real clear, not being, feeling safe cannot be a prerequisite for autonomous embodiment. I mean, to put it plainly, look at the Palestinians. The threat is so dire and so present that there is no time to intellectualize. There is no time to intellectualize. If you have time to intellectualize, you're not in imminent danger. Right? There's proximity to death. There's proximity to violence, right? There's proximity. There's levels here. When the bombs are raining down now, there is no intellectualizing how other people are going to feel about how you feel. There's no thought about it. You ain't got time. It's death or feel. There's no space. There's no room for your brain to hop in and start telling stories. Right? So understand the thing that we fear most is our own emotions because of the power they have to alienate us or to bring us into the fold, which is survival, right? If you're just joining me, I've been talking about how human nature is not to dominate each other, it's to belong. Belonging is human nature. And so we learn to relate to our feelings the way that other people do. Other people teach us how to be in relationship with our feelings, mostly our caregivers. Our caregivers teach us how to be in relationship with our emotions and our bodies. Autonomous embodiment is also to override that conditioning and programming, right? The people who have had the power of life or death over us are the people who have determined how we come into relationship with our own feelings and our own bodies. Autonomous embodiment is to override the conditioning. The trial by fire way to do that is for somebody to put a gun to your head, right? Or to have the bombs raining down. Having the bombs raining down is a trial by fire for autonomous embodiment. We don't want it to get to that point, because when we have this space to intellectualize, when there's time between an impending threat or imagined threat and where we are now, our mind jumps in between in that space and tells a story, right? So these moments of Scorpio, this new moon, we're planting seeds for autonomous embodiment because we need to feel the feelings and not tell the story. You guys are going off in the comments here. Let me see here. I am Nicole Melanie Davis says, I can find solace in being in truth with being while being honest about how I feel. It's invaluable and keeps me sane. Blessing Dada says, much love from Dublin, Ireland. Your existence is so therapeutic for this world. Thank you so much. Shout out to Dublin. Flores Conagua. I find myself crying often, feeling my own feelings, especially after having a baby 7 months ago. I feel so lonely, feeling so much when others dissociate and gaslight so often. So let me share something with you that might help you here. Not just Flores, but everyone. Do you know how we praise people who are the first to do something? We praise the person who's the first to have 50 number ones in a row on the Billboard Hot 100. We praise the first person to get nominated for 80 Grammys. We praise the first person, to do anything, right? We praise people for being the first to accomplish something nobody else has ever done, right? But most of us actually don't have the tolerance, the emotional tolerance and fortitude that's required to do that. Because outside of capitalism, whiteness, patriarchy, colorism, misogyny, all of that stuff, what it often takes to be the first to do something is to be the only one doing it. And it's easy to praise that when there are capitalist rewards for that type of accomplishment. Right? And so I want you to see feelings in the same way. Because eventually, everybody's going to come over to this side and they're going to want to be like they knew all along, right? Because there is a social reward on the other side for having been the first, but there is social punishment for being on this side and being the first. Just like there is social reward for being on the other side of being the first to accomplish something materially in the world, but there's social alienation for being different and doing it your way, right? So you think of feelings the same way. On the other side, there is reward for having been the first to continue masking, for having been the first to stop spending money, to having been the first to protect yourself. The one who establishes the new status quo is alienated when it's happening, right? So feeling all of these feelings, it's unbearable because you want for most anything for somebody to feel with you. But if you want to be the agent of change, you have to be willing to be the only one feeling it. You want to be the emotional leader, not the follower, because the follower is into the death pit. LV Life with Love says, we are always freed by those that dream beyond the boundaries and oppression placed in our bodies and communities. Appreciate this so much and reminder. Yes, this is why I say, while revolution begins in the body, freedom begins in the imagination. And we need those two things together. I don't know what this says, SWUGSYD. So what's good? So no, I don't know. Just like BLM 2016 versus BLM 2020, everyone posting a black square. Okay, literally, this is the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide, which is today is your last day to pre-order. I actually am thinking about extending it to tomorrow because I know some people are abstaining today. Where did I say this? Oh, maybe that was in May. I talk about that contradiction, right? Of it doesn't matter whether it's towards liberation or the sustaining of the status quo. People just want to belong. Most people are not emotional leaders. Most people are unwilling to take that risk because it's dangerous, right? But it's not dangerous to sit at home with your mask and to wear masks out in public, at least not right now. No, that's so real. Stark Raving Millennial talking about all of their Scorpio placements and how they don't want praise, they want connection. No, I totally get that. I get that. I'm right here with you. Chunky Monkey says, yes to everything you are saying, thank you. And this has brought up scapegoat wound pain, being a social agent of change in my social work cohort. Anti-capitalista says, do you think we all have the potential to be leaders? Yes, and this is what this reading is about. That's what this reading is about here. This is about people think being a leader is being given a title. People think being a leader is being given, you know, a title and a label and social status. That's not a leader, right? That's a job. Being a leader is being the agent of change and influence in wherever your realm of influence is. Your realm of influence is your home, your family, your community, your friendships, wherever you are visible, wherever you are, whenever you're there. Being a leader means being the agent of influence and change, right? That's what that means. Whether you're being an emotional leader, and being an emotional leader, as I talked about in this reading, is about rejecting the emotional consensus that determines for you, often in contradiction to your body, who and what is a threat and what is dangerous and what is safe. Being a leader is hard because the choice is be a leader or belong. Be a leader, be the agent of influence or change, or be the object of someone else's influence. Be changed by somebody else's impact. Those are the two choices. So the leader is the one who is the agent of impact and influence. And this is not black and white, right? There are times when we allow ourselves to be influenced and we allow ourselves to be impacted. We allow ourselves to be the objects and change. This is the astrology of 2024. I think I wrote this in November. Oh yes, this is November in the 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide. I say identity is complex. It must remain firm as a testament to our coherence and reliability. It must also be flexible, adaptable to others so that we can be granted the belonging we need to survive. You're so welcome. Sign up with AZ for dropping these insights at this very time. This is Divination for Liberation. Y'all get it now? Divination for Liberation. Y'all get it? Y'all get it? Y'all get it? Right? Okay. I've been on here for about 1 hour and 30 minutes. I'm going to put this up on YouTube, and this will be available on my Instagram page. If you have not pre-ordered your 2024 Sidereal Astrology Guide, do it today. As I said before, I think I'm going to end up leaving it open till tomorrow just for those who are abstaining from making purchases today. Solidarity. I get you. I just chose this day a long time ago, and I got to get these off to the printer so that it won't be February by the time y'all get these. I want y'all to have them in January because I want to be able to talk about it with y'all before we get too far into the year. Thank you all for joining me. You are so welcome. Thank you for pre-ordering the guide, Nicole. Also, when you pre-order the printed and bound version of this, you get a complimentary PDF. You do not need to add the PDF to your cart. The PDF will be sent to your email inside your purchase receipt. There will be a download link for you to download the PDF to use while you wait for your printed and bound copy to be shipped and arrived at your place of residence. Again, new moon, Sidereal Scorpio. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. Thank you so much for your incredible and insightful and transparent questions. Please feel free to share this. Feel free to screen record. Feel free to share far and wide. This will be available for you to replay here on Instagram. I'm also going to upload it onto my YouTube channel. And again, thank you so much. You all have an incredible evening.